we start the conversation and share my screen. Hope everyone is doing well this morning. I know it's rainy and I know we've got bad weather tomorrow, so I'm hoping everyone stays safe tomorrow. Let me get my chat and come back up here, everything over to the left. And okay.
Stacy, you're not doing spring break this week?
This is my spring break. Yeah, I'm in here. Look, I'm the only one in my office in tank tops and leggings and tennis shoes, and I'm quite all right with that with the rain going. It's quite peaceful. I had a couple questions come in. Who do we contact when we need a course and cannot find it? One of the courses they removed, English Literature Comp AP, and we have found English Language and Comp AP, but cannot find a replacement for the literature course. Anyone know a replacement code? Yes, so Shelley, there were actually two different lists sent out. There was the one that came from the implementation. Unmute. There we go. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, there were two different lists. There was the list that came from PowerSchool that said make sure you remove these courses, but then in Elizabeth Davis's weekly email that she sent out, and in the curriculum and instruction meetings, she sent out a list that these are the courses you should have. So if you have that list of the courses that you should have, it's got the code you need to look up. Do you have that one, Shelley?
No, I don't. And I didn't receive anything from Elizabeth Davis. Our tech coordinator may have, but I didn't receive any of that. So I did receive the one from our specialist and the one you sent out that had the ones to remove, but not the replacement ones.
Okay, does anybody else need that email that's got the correct course codes that you need, not the ones that say, it's like the converse of it? Because if so, then I can just email it out to everybody instead of just 2 or 3. Does more than one person need it?
Yeah, Stacy, send it to me. This is Shaolin.
Okay. Let me make a note in course list. All courses. Okay, I'll send that out to all ALED. I'll just forward that email. But yes, that's got the list. And it's actually got a course that was left off of the one that came from PowerSchool because there were duplicate of the Computer Science Innovators Project Lead the Way middle school class. There was actually a duplication in there as well. And so she has in her list the one that you should have, but it was not on the PowerSchool list of the ones you have to get rid of. So I will make sure to send that out to everyone. Matthew said, a little off topic, but if Access is remote enrollment, can we assign our own facilitator to that course for attendance purposes? So Matthew, are you asking that you want to see the attendance in your LEA for that course?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to think this through from our high school standpoint because our high schools use Access a lot. So right now the courses would be scheduled to a local facilitator so that that facilitator knows how many students should be in that room during that period and would post attendance for the kids during that period. If it's a remote enrollment, then it's Access's teacher that's a teacher of record, and we don't see that, right?
That is correct. So the Access teacher is the one that takes attendance and does everything, and then at the end it all pushes back into your side of it when the storing of grades happens. But if you want to keep like on-prem attendance, then you'd have to create a shell class, like one of those schedule filler classes that just sits in the location of the schedule where that kid is, and then you would keep the attendance that way. I have heard a few people saying that they wanted to take that approach because they wanted to manually see the attendance themselves.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, like, because bell schedules aren't going to line up, periods aren't necessarily going to be the same period. So if we want to be able to locate our students, even like if the front office needs to locate the student, they need to be in a class somewhere.
That is correct.
All right, so I need to tell my high schools if they're doing Access classes, not to schedule the actual classes, but to schedule just like a schedule filler that would represent an Access course.
Yeah, what I did is I created I created 2 schedule filler courses, and one of them was like a I called it dual enrollment access on campus, dual enrollment access off campus, just so I would kind of know where they were, whether they were supposed to be sitting in a room or if they were going to be somewhere else, just to schedule fillers. One, so that I could get them in a block in the schedule to know that they were going to have a completed schedule when we run the build and load. I didn't want to get a whole bunch of, less percentages on those kids. And two, just for the purposes that you say, so I would have a place to hold and do what I needed to for the kids for them.
Okay, and this may be getting way off in the weeds, but what about like half credit versus full credit and permanent grade store, all that? Like when we store grades first semester, second semester, and issue half credits, if we're doing remote enrollment, then that's not necessarily the way that's going to work for those courses, right?
So that is true, because they will be storing credits. If the kid finishes the course, then they store it whatever percentage. And because they haven't really told us how they're going to set up the structure of those courses, I don't know if they're going to store on halves and then whole at the end, or whole, how they're going to do that. So I think that we're going to have to wait on some more guidance from them. I know Steve Blair's been working very hard with them to figure that out and setting it up.
Okay, thanks.
Linda, will we receive a copy of this training, please? Yes, Linda, we record all of the trainings and put them in that ALET webinar folder for everyone to go back and look at. And I am going to present this in a way that if you need to share this with your registrars and data clerks, afterward, it might have like this in here with us doing some talking in between, but it will have the structure that you need of this is how Alabama is going to do enrollment for all purposes. Teresa, is anyone having problems with being repeatedly logged out while actively working? This is happening across our district while we're setting up for scheduling. Yes, and I'm not, but I've seen this come up, and it was something about timeout with IP addresses or something on the server. So Teresa, if you'll let your implementation specialist know that that's happening, they can fix that for you.
Hey, Stacy, do they know how to fix it? Because he knows, and he's put a ticket in, and they told us to assign, they asked us to assign static IPs. And our IT folks thought that was just off the wall request for us to have static IPs across the district, I guess. It
was something about if you have it with larger districts and one IP address and lots of usage, it was something to there's some threshold that after it sees so many logins at one time, it almost thinks that it's an attack. And so it's having you it's logging you out as like a preventative measure. It's something to do with security side of it.
Okay. All right. So maybe they'll keep investigating and
but it could be that you set up, and I think that is what I've heard everybody say, Teresa, though, is to set some type of IP address at different locations so that it doesn't look like everything's coming from one or something. I'm not real sure. I just remember that conversation, and it might have been in a global PowerSchool community question, not necessarily an Alabama one.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem. Linda, the webinar folder, your CTO in your district has the link to that folder. Stephanie, quick question. I have some teachers that need to be available at 2 different high schools. One school is saying they do not see the teachers in scheduler. Any ideas? I put the teacher on both schools on their permissions pages. So if they don't see the teacher, Stephanie, when they go to that teacher's list, then that means back on the live side, go look that teacher up, and there is a box that says schedule this teacher. That has to be checked for them to appear in that list over in scheduler. Can we rename the recordings in the shared folder with the main topics? That would be very helpful. I can, but Brian, remember, if you click on the I beside them, over in the details, I list what all is covered inside of each one of those. But I can work on some renaming structure. That's not a problem. All right, is everybody ready to talk enrollment? All right, does everybody have pen and paper ready, something to write down, take notes, type, whatever you want to do to kind of go through this, because this is different from how we've done this traditionally in now. The way that PowerSchool works with our database and that ODS at the state, enrollment records and student records are not together like they are in iNow in our database. They're actually two separate things. And because of that, there is this concept in PowerSchool of having a district-wide enrollment and having a statewide enrollment. And because of that, I'm not going to go real thick into the weeds with the backside of it. Because of that, there are really two different procedures that have to take place. There is a very distinct and different procedure of transferring a student within your LEA versus outside of your LEA. And so we've got to make sure that you know that there's two different trails and certain processes have to be followed for it to really take effect. Because unfortunately, you can go through here and think that you have transferred a student and really have done nothing. And I can state that from fact, because as we were piloting this, I mean, Twin Collins and I beat our head against the wall thinking that we were transferring kids back and forth to each other and they weren't showing up and we could not figure out why. Well, come to find out after we sat down with PowerSchool and like crawled through enrollment piece by piece, little step by little step, found out we were just doing it the complete wrong way. And so now that we kind of have our head wrapped around it, I think it's time that we kind of talk about this and show this, because everybody knows we are in the throes of kindergarten registration right now. I know ours starts in next week. We send everything out to our parents, and then first week of April, they come in and start registering on site with us. I think it was Roanoke City Schools I saw has already done their kindergarten registration. Most of you are probably in the throes of it right now, and we're thinking, what do we do with these kids? We've got these kindergarten registrations. Do I put them in iNow? Do I put them in PowerSchool? What am I supposed to do with them? Well, number one, they're not going in iNow because we don't have next year in iNow. You know, that if somebody did spin it up by mistake or trying to do something, it's not going to do anything, because when our pulls come from our files to be put into PowerSchool, it's this academic year. It's not next academic year. They're not going to go touch that and look at that in any way in any file. So all of these kids will go into PowerSchool. But the question everybody has is, well, can we go ahead and put them into PowerSchool? And the answer to that is no, not right now. However, I will tell you, Rayanne Cook she's a godsend, and she's really fighting for Alabama, and she is working on what they can do to kind of get state enrollment connected but not connected to our production instances so that we can get those kids in. The thing that has to happen is that it has to establish that state enrollment connection on our live sides so that these kids can at some point hit state enrollment to be searched, to make sure that, you know, mama might come to me and say, yeah, this kid's never been in school in Alabama before. It's a fresh kid. We go put them in PowerSchool, but oh yeah, they were a school 4999 kid at some time, or they were a special ed pre-K kid somewhere and they didn't tell us. So they actually have a state enrollment somewhere. We've got to have a way that we can search that ODS to get those kids and get theirs correct. Well, the only way to make that happen is for them to turn a state enrollment on, then turn it back off, so that what happens is when we do start back up and start transferring these records, it will do a search and pretty much throw everybody into a provisional enrollment type status with them. And that's the goal. She's hoping that within the next month, she can make that happen for us so that we can start putting these kids in before the end of school. There's no promises made right now, but that's the goal that we're going to. And that woman has pretty much been able to figure out how to do everything that we've needed her to do for the entire state as we go along. So our hope is to be able to get those kindergartners in PowerSchool soon, but there are processes that they have to get in place first. Right now, state enrollment is only turned on the pilot district's pilot sites, not our production sites, just like y'all's that you're working in, because we're testing the movement back and forth. So as we go through this process right here, you're going to see students from Apple Grove, you're going to see Lee County, Baldwin, Jefferson, Hartselle, Alabaster, all of them that are there in our pilot districts. So let's get started on this and see what it looks like from beginning to end. So first scenario that we're going to talk about. So make sure to make note of this. We are going to work with transferring a student in district. So if you have a district that has multiple primary, intermediate, middle, high, where kids are going back and forth, I know we do. Our elementary schools are very transient. They live in one house this week and another one the next week. We're constantly moving them. This is the process that we would go through on moving in district. So right now I am in district and I am at Carver Primary School. And Snow White is one of my students. So I'm going to pull Miss Snow White up. She's a kindergartner right here. And Mama has just let me know that she is going to be transferring to Jeter Primary School. So we are going to go through and transfer her in LEA from Carver Primary School to Jeter Primary School. Now, let's pretend Mama did not let Carver know that she was leaving. Let's pretend that she went on to Jeter and just showed up and said, hey, I'm enrolling at Jeter today. We were at Carver, but we need to come here. Well, if it were I now, the person would just go in, pull them up, pull them over. That cannot happen in PowerSchool. It's not possible to happen. You can't pull a kid in that is active at another school. They have to be released from that other school first. So Jeter is going to have to call Carver and say, hey, Mama is over here. Snow White's Mama's here. I need you to go and transfer the student out so that I can pull them in. So there is a two-step process to transferring a student out of your district. The first part of the process is to make the student inactive, because you can't transfer a kid that's active, period. So how do we go through and do that process? So inside of a student record, over on the left-hand side, is this enrollment part right here. If you look at this transfer info, you will see that this student is an active student that entered. I actually enrolled this student yesterday, so I could use them as a practice example with that E1 enrollment. Oh, I didn't mean to click on that. Go back. With that E1 enrollment. All of the movement of these kids are going to occur under enrollment in this functions tab or functions link right here. So I'm going to go to functions. Lots of options right here. So we're going to kind of walk through these options today and what all we do. First, these right here are part of that web-based report Power Pack that the state bought for us. We'll talk about at some point. These are so that you can quickly print the reports if Mama's going out of state and you need to print them their transcript, their grades, or whatever to move on. Here are what we are going to look at. And there are going to be some things here that we use, and there's going to be some things that we don't use. So first step in getting a student transferred within your LEA is to transfer them out of their current school. This equates to making them inactive at this school. So I'm going to click on this button here, transfer out of school. So if you want to put a comment, so I'm saying moving to Jeter Primary. Date of transfer. They are moving today, 3/16. We do have exit codes, just like we normally do. So what is my exit code? They are in district. So that is a WA1 transfer in system public school, which I want to make a note on this right here. Pilots asked and they did, and we are so thankful that they have moved transfer in system and transfer in state to the top of the list in this code set, because we know that a lot of those transfer in system school choice used to be up at the top because they were in alphabetical order. They got moved to the bottom because people were mistakenly choosing that school choice, and only what 5, 7, I forget, 10% of the districts are supposed to even have that because of whatever percentage you fell in. Those are there, but they are down at the bottom. And they are still working on cleaning this list up. This is not the final exit code list. So because this student is transferring in system, we're doing transfer in system public. I do want to think that Rayanne said that there might be one other change coming to this screen, that there will be a transfer destination information down here where it'll be a drop down of where are they going to, so that I could say Jeter Primary and whatnot right here. So that might change between now and go live. If it does, I'll come back to this and show that screen again. Right here, you have an option to check here if the students intend to enroll in this school during next school year. And what that will do is, if you've already created some like future scheduling options or anything, it will retain those. But for the most part, Rayanne has told us that many people do not check this box at all. It also does a check against attendance to make sure that no attendance or pre-scheduled attendance has been found for this student. And so right here, I get this message that there's been no pre-scheduled attendance. If there has been some pre-scheduled attendance, like maybe there was supposed to be a field trip on Friday that's already been marked for all of these kids, it does give you the option to go through and delete those attendance records, and that has to be done before you can actually move these kids across district. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And you're going to get a confirm on pretty much all of these pages. So I'm going to confirm submit. And it tells me student transfers, 1 has been transferred. So effectively what I have done at this point is I have made Snow White inactive at Carver. So she's still here. But not, I know you see on the screen right here, but when I go to search White, notice my kindergarten Snow White student does not pop up. So I need to write her date of birth down that I did, 7/25/15, just as a reminder. Okay. In order to find her, if I really did want to locate her, remember to search for inactive students. You have to put that /. And now, do you see her? She's kind of grayed out. I don't know if y'all can tell the difference between the blue icons and the gray icons. So I've got Snow White grayed out, which means she is now inactive at this school. And if I were to go look at her record under enrollment, that transfer, you see, it says up here, transferred out, WA1, transferred in school, and I've got she's moving to Jeter. So that is step 1 of moving this student. Step 2 is to actually come back to this student screen and come back to functions. Remember, this is going to be a 2-step process. First step was make them inactive. Second step is actually to transfer them out of the school. So now I'm going to come to the same screen, functions, and I'm going to go to transfer to another school. So Snow White, this student right here, to what district? Opelika City. Now, I will say this is one thing that the pilots have been asking. This transfer to another school process is only, you hear that word? Only used when you are transferring within your district. So we don't know why it gives you the option to do all of these, because it kind of gives a false sense that, oh, well, I can take from this screen and transfer them to Baldwin or Hartselle or Lee. You cannot. This is only used to transfer within district in the state of Alabama. So you only should choose your district if you get multiple options here. We'll see if they change that between now and go live. I don't know. But you're only going to choose your district, and then what school are they going to? They are going to go to Jeter Primary School. And then I'm going to hit submit. And so it tells me Snow White is now an inactive student at Jeter Primary School. So I have taken the student at Carver, I made them inactive at Carver, and I have now said they are going to Jeter Primary School, and I've taken that inactive record and moved it to Jeter. So 2 steps. So I've gotten the student out at Carver. Now I'm the registrar over at Jeter. I can go pull this student in and make them active. So I'm going to take and swap schools. And just to show you, before I do this, again, if I do a search, no Snow White right here. And if I do the inactive search, no Snow White right here. Again, that's a pre-K kid, not the one I was working with. So does everybody understand how I got them out of Carver? No questions? All right, let's go pull them into Jeter. So swap to Jeter. So I'm the data clerk over at Jeter. I'm going to enroll this student in. Now, we all think enrolling student, and I see this nice little enroll student button, but that is not where you go. So what we have to do is find that student. So remember, what status, come on, I'm playing teacher right here. What status is this kid in at Jeter right now?
Inactive.
So how do I find them?
/.
So see, I do / white. I've got to search the inactive students. So here she is. Here's her record. Now it comes back to the screen that I was last on, because remember, PowerSchool likes to remember where you are. I need to go back to that function screen, and I know I could do it up here in the breadcrumbs, but I want you to get used to seeing where this function screen is at. We've got to come over here under enrollment into functions, and this is where it's very different. What you're actually doing is re-enrolling this student. And I know that sounds weird because the student's not been at Jeter. So you're thinking, I'm not really re-enrolling them. Where you're re-enrolling them in the district is what you're doing. It just says in school. Maybe we could get them to code that, I don't know. But you're re-enrolling them in the district in this school right here. So you're gonna click this re-enroll in school. So the date of re-enrollment, this is gonna be 3/16. What is my entry code? You're only gonna have one. Ignore this little E down here. It's gonna be the E1 entry code that we're used to seeing. If you want to put a comment in here, moved from Carver primary, you are going to have to put a full-time equivalency in. So remember in those setup steps where you had to create your FTE of that full and regular. So we've got our full-time equivalency. What grade level are they going to be? Well, they were kindergarten at the other, so it's going to default to the grade level they were. So if that's going to change, it will have to be done here. If you're doing a track, that was that ABCDEF track set up in your calendar. We're not going to use them even though they're set up. District of residence, it's going to populate what it was, so they still live within Opelika City Schools. Do I want to restore class enrollments? That's going to be a no. It's going to be a no every time because you're not going to the same sections of whatever that was at the other school. So make sure you change that to no, or else you could cause some headaches in your schedule. And so now you hit submit. Oh, you know what? Because I do have spring break scheduled in there, so let's pretend that it's going to be Monday. We're during spring break and they changed. And I'm going to hit submit. Once you change that date, you got to fill all this back out. E1, full-time, kindergarten, no, and now submit. Okay, it's going to ask, and what it does at this point is it searches your district. So I know that we went and pulled them from the district, but now it's going to search the district and say, hey, which of these kids is it that you're wanting to choose, just in case you might have chosen the wrong one. So this is the correct Snow White that was at Carver, even though they know they were transferred out. Yes, this is who I want. And if it's the wrong one, you can cancel. There are multiple opportunities to cancel enrollments along the process inside of PowerSchool. So I'm going to choose it because it is an exact match. Hit next, and again, confirm next. And now Snow White has been re-enrolled. So if I go back to my home screen inside of Jeter and I search for White, or if I come back here, she's pre-registered. Now, do y'all know why she's pre-registered? You might want to take a shot.
Because you enrolled her on next Monday?
Yeah, because I'm in spring break right now. I didn't think about needing to change my calendar. If I change my calendar, it'll work. It's pre-registered. So if this had not been a spring break day and I had used 3/16 as the enrollment day, it would say that she's active, or it wouldn't say anything because she would be an active student. But because she's coming Monday, which I probably wouldn't have pulled her in until Monday at that case, because you know we're a button seat kind of district, then you wouldn't see that pre-registered. But that is the process that you use to get them from one school in your district to another school in the district. All right, so let's stop with this and ask questions. All right, Pat says, if losing school inactivated but didn't transfer, can receiving school still enroll this student, or do they have to contact losing school and have them transfer? All right, so if they have to be inactivated, if they are inactivated, you can go pull. But what's going to happen is it's going to cause that E99, and then they do have to still do that resolution process. Other questions? This is because of that whole, the losing school has to start the process. This is going to force more communication in the LEAs. And I do know, and even Twin brought up this as a concern in the pilot meetings, that it could be an issue for larger school districts, because we know how sometimes it's a hard time getting other people on the phone to say, hey, Snow White's mom's over here, I need you to go in, because they want to have a schedule right now and start that kid in class. You got to get somebody on the phone so that they can get them actually inactive so that you can transfer them through there. Patty said, does it matter if the new school doesn't re-enroll on the same day? No, not at all, Patty. It's kind of like you have that flexibility, and if you need to say that they enrolled yesterday and whatever, those dates still can work. And I know, you know, sometimes, well, we have those issues in I-NOW where we can't withdraw and enroll on the same day. They have to be back-to-back days. You don't have to worry about that inside of here. You can withdraw and enroll on the same day within PowerSchool.
Stacy, so is there no talk about changing that issue, that we have to contact that currently enrolled school to withdraw them? Because that's going to be a task.
It is, but the whole reason that is like that is because of how there's actually a difference in the way I-NOW is programmatically built versus how PowerSchool is programmatically built. In I-NOW, the student record and the enrollment record are the same record, which can move. In PowerSchool, they're not. The student record and the enrollment record are two different records. And so that's why there's this process, and it has to go in this way. This is how literally everybody that uses PowerSchool has to do this, because of the architecture of the actual program. And we've talked about it. So I don't know if Rayann's going to try to pull some magic, but I just don't see how that core functionality can be changed before we go live, at least. So that's why I wanted to show this to y'all, so y'all can start getting procedure and protocol in place for that, because that's a very different step than what we've done in the past. All right, so in district transfers, 3 steps: losing school, transfers out of school. Look, I have to look at my notes to know this because I haven't memorized this by heart. Losing school, transfers out of school, transfers to another school. Receiving school, re-enrolls in the school. Any other questions on transferring in district? All right, let's say that some action has been taken, like maybe they're not all talking to each other on the phone at that same time. I want to go back to the district just because that's where I see all of my notifications at. There are alerts, and we're going to talk about transferring out of state in a little while. There are alerts that are told to people in the offices or at district level that, hey, movement has occurred, you need to take action. These are those provisional enrollments. You see it at district office, and you see it at each one of the actual school screens. So I want you to look over here on the left. You see provisional enrollment. You might not see this yet in production because this is not going to show up until state enrollment is actually turned on for us. So this is not here now, but I want to show you where you're going to have to make sure you give people access to be able to see this. So this and the little triangle up here kind of both give alerts. So first, let me click on this and show it to you. So these are the notifications that I'm going to see. So all of our provisional enrollments, guys, they're what we're used to. They're the E97s, 98, 99s, except we've got a new one called 90. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But this tells me that I've got 2 provisional enrollment notifications right now within the district. I've got Donald Duck, who's in the process of transferring out of the current school district to Apple Grove. So please withdraw the student or contact the gaining school if the student was enrolled in error. So in other words, Donald Duck was an inactive student, or excuse me, he's an active student and somebody outside of my LEA is trying to pull him in. So I would have to go and make him inactive so that transfer can take place, because you cannot pull a kid that is active, only after they're inactive. So I'm going to show you how we would resolve that. Here, the following student, Kaleem Abdul, is in the process of transferring into the current school district and has been withdrawn correctly at the sending. Please assign an enrollment code. So this is where it would be in, like if Carver had sent to Jeter, but Jeter hadn't acted yet. It's going, hey, Jeter, we've got somebody coming to you. We need you to go through and take care of this. So let me show you what those look like. if I click over here under provisional enrollment, you're going to see the different options we have. So we've got E99 students that are not withdrawn and transferred out of a losing district or school. We've got E99, we've got different types: withdrawn and transferred, and entry and exit dates overlapped. And we've got E99 withdrawn, transferred out at losing district, which is what Kaleem is, or Callum, Abdul. So this one right here says that he is trying to be transferred out of Opelika Middle School. Now, there are two options on these kids. I can resolve these and go, okay, let's go ahead and do this transfer, which is just resolve and that's it, they're transferred out. Or I can no-show, and this is a different concept of the no-show that we think are just day one, didn't show up to school. This no-show button here can also be, let's say, Charlene, I'm gonna pick on you because we have this happen all the time. Mama lives in Opelika, Daddy lives in Auburn. Today, Mama wants to have custody. Tomorrow, Daddy wants to have custody. And so they want to fight over who gets to enroll the student at what school. And so we'll constantly pass back and forth. Well, what if I have paperwork that says, nope, student has to stay enrolled in Opelika, and Charlene goes to pull because she didn't know that I had paperwork that said he's supposed to stay in Opelika. I can actually no-show this where it is not going to force that transfer and the student stays with me and nothing's acted upon. Or what if somebody went in and pulled the wrong kid and we're like, no, I'm pretty sure, Colleen, you know, that school, Opelika Middle School, is going to get this same alert. And they go, no, this kid's not leaving. Mama hadn't said, or I'm going to call Mama. Hey, Mama, I'm just calling to verify. Are you moving your kid to Auburn? No, I'm not moving my kid. Okay, then a mistake was made. I can no-show and this will not take place. And I'll call Charlene and go, hey, check the kid. So there are fail-safes in here. Nothing's going to automatically move a kid back and forth. You do have a stopgap in that process. Those are the in and out of district. You have E98, which is connection when the state locator is available. You have E90, which is connection to state locator being available or not available as well. And then if you have students provisionally enrolled at other districts. So right now, Donald Duck is provisionally enrolled at Apple Grove. So Apple Grove went and pulled him from Opelika. I've got to go release him to get rid of that E99 code on their end. So this is what this enrollment screen looks like. Now, out of the box, you don't get access to this enrollment screen. So how do you turn this enrollment screen on so that you're going to be able to see these movements as people start moving kids across the state or across your LEA? So I'm going to go, oh, I could have done it from here, to security. So let's go to system. Security, and it's actually up under roles. So under district administrator, there is going to be this right here, receive provisional enrollment notifications. You don't see this yet. You're only going to see it once they turn state enrollment on and you have this, but you need to make a note right now that once state enrollment is turned on, you're going to have to figure out what roles are going to get access to receive this provisional enrollment notification. And then if they have the access to get to this provisional enrollment screen, you will have to give them modification access to that screen to be able to act upon any of those buttons that I just showed you, whether you're at the district level or at the school level. So make a note that y'all, once this happens, y'all gonna have to come back and revisit this screen. You can't do it right now, but you will have to. About the security, Linda? All right, so in order to be able to get to this screen right here, to have access to see this, whether you're at district or at school, it does not matter. You have to have the role permission turned off to see provisional enrollment notifications. That's going to turn them on here and turn them on here. That role notification is found under system, security, roles administration, user access, And then whatever user groups, this is my pilot, so it doesn't have all my real groups like you would see because this isn't in production yet. But you would need to have receives provisional enrollment notifications turned on for the roles that you want to have access to that. Julian, we shared the enrollment office hours video that Rayanne did back with some stakeholders. One question that came up when we got to the provisional enrollment screen was, do records requests still need to manually occur? We said yes, but would love your feedback. Actually, Julian, that has changed. There is not that second step of transferring of records. They will automatically go with them. And Rayanne showed that to us in pilot. She transferred Brandon Adair in Apple Grove, who had some data with him, into, I think it was Baldwin County. And once she did that transfer, we were able to go into his historical records in Baldwin County, and sure enough, all of his grades were there. So that repetitious process was removed.
Hey, Stacey. So they were also talking like right now, when the kid comes to enroll, they will, I guess, call the school or email or whatever to request their records. They were asking, do they need to still do that, or do they just trust that everything is transferred over?
When you say everything, what all would you be expecting?
I saw where, you know, the transcript and all that moves. I guess they were just trying to see, do they still need to ask for a physical copy, or should the expectation be that we're gonna get everything we need just through the provisional enrollment screen? So we told them, I mean, don't change your current process because we just don't know yet. We hadn't heard officially from the state. I know Rayanne was saying they were gonna send a memo or something, but that was back in January. We've not seen anything yet.
Right. I would be very hesitant to change our process yet, because the one thing that I'm still not clear on is discipline. Yeah. And we all know that we do request discipline because they have to come in good standing, yada, yada. And we know what the rules behind all of that. And I don't know that that comes in a transfer. So that might still have to be asked for anyway. Okay. If it doesn't come in that transfer. But I know as far as grades, all of that does come. But still, I might want to reach out to see, have they posted, you know, if they haven't stored grades, then there might not be anything that comes, and you might have to get a progress report and in progress grades that will come to see where you need to put as far as there. So there still might be a reason that we have to reach out to them and ask for records, even though stored records will come, in progress will not.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie says, when we request records, we request official transcript, attendance, discipline, and et cetera. And so, Stephanie, right now, I would not change any of that. Attendance, I can tell you, I know will not transfer in this process, because attendance is tied to sections inside of PowerSchool. And because it's not coming to the same section per se in a different database, that will not come. It's really the transcript part that is coming in this, if that helps. All right, so I've shown what we do with kids who are inside of LEA and how to move them around. Are y'all good with that? Are you ready to talk about how we're going to deal with kids outside of our district? Because we probably deal more with that than we do the other, unless we're really big districts. Then you're, I know, very transient. All right, let me flip my page then. Let's go to transfers in state. And then we're going to talk about some other things on that function screen. All right, so I'm going to go to my high school. So I'm at my high school, and where's my little piece of paper? Mark Mouse just came to us today. Mark Mouse is currently an 11th grader, and he's at Apple Grove High School. He's an active student at Apple Grove High School. So I want to come, and so apparently Mark Mouse's mother has not told Apple Grove High School that he's leaving yet. So I'm going to go and start the transfer process, and they will get a provisional enrollment notification letting them know, hey, Mark Mouse is transferring to Opelika High School. We need you to resolve this enrollment. So I'm at Opelika High School, and I want to go in and enroll this student. So I'm going to come over here to Enroll Student. This is where we actually use the Enroll Student button. So I'm going to put in some information. I'm not going to put too much in, even though I know I see a lot of reds and greens on here. We'll talk about what's really required and what is not. However, I will say the more information you put in, the more accurate of a match you can get. It does pretty much search for all last name people associated with any name you put in, and it also does phonemic searches in here. So even if you don't spell the name quite right, it does everything that is phonemically.
Released that.
Stacy,
Yes.
this
schools-
is pulling a child into
Educational
our
places
school
are
from
huge
from another
targets
district and
That
state.
is correct.
for
Okay.
ransomware.
Yep,
So I
I've got
go
a
down
new
wrong.
student that is coming to me today. Or actually, I really should have gone and changed that calendar. I'm sorry, guys. I did not even think about it. They're going to come to me on Monday, we're going to say, because I don't think it's going to let me enroll. Maybe I can do it as a Friday, and let's see if it'll let me pull that. So I'm going to do this student. This student just showed up in my guidance office today, and he is coming to Opelika High School, Mark Mouse. So last name in, first name in. His date of birth is 1/5/2004. He is male. I'm not going to put a student number there ever, never, not. Social security number, FYI, that's going to be going away. Phone number, I'm not going to put that in there. The enrollment date, I know this is going to mess up because I'm in spring break. So let's say that it was on Friday. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Full-time equivalency always has to be put in there. What grade level is he? He is an 11th grader, or so he says. We'll see when I do a search. His entry code is going to be an E1. I'm not going to worry about all of this other stuff. Even though this is red right here, this is level data validation looking for it, but it's not compliance as far as needed in enrollment. It will be needed once he is enrolled to complete the student record, but I don't want any of this to search or look or do anything right now until I get past state enrollment. I can look for family members to link if I want to, but I actually don't want to at this point. I want to search state and see if I can find this kid. And I'm not going to worry about putting any address in to validate. I will do all of that after I actually get them enrolled. So I did bare minimum right here, which is a name, a date of birth, a gender. I didn't have to put grade level, but I kind of want to look somewhere within there to get a better match. And I do have to put an entry code. These with asterisks are the ones that I have to have in order to perform the search to begin with. So I'm going to hit submit. And now it's going out and searching the state locator. And so here's all of the matches that it finds and what percent those matches are based on the amount of information I've put in. The more information I put in, the higher of a match I can possibly get. So I see all these Mouse people right here, and I'm looking for Mark Mouse, and sure enough, here he is. He's an 11th grader, and he's coming from Apple Grove High School. But notice I get all of these very similar matches as well. All right, what if it was Minnie Mouse and no Minnies popped up? Then I have this one and it's kind of hidden, and you can overlook this very easily, especially if it's a large number. Like if I tried to pull up Snow White, there are a ton of kids with the last name White in the state, and it pulls almost all of them that give me this 70% or more match. I have to scroll all the way down to find this no match to get a new enrollment. So I'm going to choose Mark Mouse because that is who I want. And notice it gives me a warning up here. As soon as I click that, it says the student is active in another school in the state. So in other words, Mark hadn't told Apple Grove that he's leaving, or either mama did and they just have not gone in and transferred him yet. So we're going to force it here and make them get that provisional enrollment notification and hope they go in and resolve it soon. And if they don't, we have to make phone calls. So do I want to proceed with this enrollment knowing he's going to come in as an E99? The answer to that is yes. So I'm going to hit next. And again, it's asking me, do I want to confirm? You get all these options to confirm. All right, so he is in here. He is in here and he's in as an E99. And to see that E99 status, I can scroll down under enrollment and look at the transfer info screen. And sure enough, here he is as an E99 status. And so what happens is Apple Grove now has a notification on them up here. And it says mine says Mark Mouse is in the process of transfer and has not been withdrawn correctly at the sending or losing district. So what they are going to see is this right here. The following student, they're going to see Mark Mouse is in the process of transferring out of the current to Opelika High School. Please withdraw the student or the gaining. So here's the two errors. Here's what we see on our side. Now pretend this was Apple Grove. This is what they would see on their side with Mark Mouse's name and Opelika High School right here. So that's the kind of notification. And do you see how in real time that popped up there? That is how those schools across the state are going to know. So when I have a student that is going to Lee County, as soon as Lee County does that enrollment, then I'm going to get this notification at my high school that I need to withdraw them out. And again, that's going to be over on that provisional enrollment screen, and I can do one of two things. I can resolve it, which goes ahead and transfers them out, or I can go in and say, nope, you can't take them. That was the wrong kid, and no show that one to say that wasn't supposed to happen. So questions on pulling a kid in from another district.
So Stacy, when you put in that information, if you wanted to continue to look because you didn't get a good, you feel that you know the student was out there, but you didn't get the result that you were looking for on that screen, would you just hit back or would you have to cancel the enrollment and enter that information again?
I typically hit cancel enrollment just because I like that cancel to make sure I haven't done anything, but I'm pretty sure you probably, well, technically we're not supposed to hit the back button in PowerSchool, but I'm betting you could and it still would, but I don't know if it would hang anything up in a weird state anywhere. So for safety, I would hit cancel. And just to kind of show you that, we'll practice that again. So if I go to Enroll Student, and I'm just going to put the same information in. Mark Mouse, he was 1/5/2004, male, don't care, 12, grade E1. So if I submit and I go, nah, maybe mama didn't spell the name right. He didn't have the birth certificate. Maybe I don't, I can hit cancel and it will go back to that information. I can say, maybe it was mouse hood. I don't know. I mean, I could sit there and keep searching. And it says, nope, there's no mouse hoods or anything like that. So you can go back and forth as much as you need to try to find the record that you're looking for.
Thank you, because cancel to me kind of implicated that it was going to remove what I'd entered.
It actually does not, which is great because we don't have to type that in 15 million times. Patty, just confirming, new school can create a schedule for the student if they're showing E99, correct? That is correct. Once that kid is in there, so remember Mark is in here. So I'm at the high school and I've got Mr. Mouse. Here's Mark Mouse. So we got the whole Mouse family right here. I can go in here and just as everything else, enrollment scheduling. If I want to modify his schedule, I want to, let's just find a course real quick. I mean, if I want to put them in Algebra 2, oh, that's a semester 1 class. Of course I did a semester, oh no, that's semester 2. I could sit there and throw those courses in left, right, manually schedule the student, automate schedule, put the request in, whatever you want to do. I can still go through and do anything functionality. I can work on the kids' information if I need to. I can work on the demographics. I can work on anything I need to with that student record. And everything works perfectly in an E99 status. All right, but what if the kid is leaving you? What if Mark came to me or, let's see, who else from the Mouse family did I have here that we're going to leave? Trying to be careful and not use real students. I have Michael Mouse. All right, so let's say that Michael Mouse's mom just came to me and said, we are leaving you and we are going to Auburn. Okay, so I know ahead of time, I can go ahead and make Michael inactive on my side and let them know, hey, you got somebody coming to you, or just make them inactive and wait on them to pull. But until that pull happens, notice whether the kid is in active status or inactive status, they're still with you until they get picked up by that other LEA. So I'm on Michael Mouse right here. So I'm making notes of everybody that I use so I can move these back and forth. And this is a 1/1/2003 date. So I've got Michael Mouse, and he is going to move from Opelika to Auburn. So I'm going to come in here as my registrar at the high school. I don't know who LaCroix Curtech is calling. Okay. I'm going to come over here under enrollments, and the same thing. Everything happens up under this functions menu right here. So I need to make this student inactive. All right, test time. Who was paying attention? How do we make the student inactive?
Transfer out of school.
Bingo. So the same thing we did a while ago where we had to kind of start the in-school or in LEA process, the process of inactivating that record is the same no matter what the situation is. So it is this transfer out of school. So Michael Mouse, transfer comment, they are moving to Auburn. Date of transfer is today. Exit code, so this time they're not staying in system, they're staying in state. So I'm going to use that WB1, transfer in state, public school. And then again, same options. Check here, students intend to enroll back in your school during the next year. I'm not going to, to be honest, I'm never going to check that box because I don't want anything retained because circumstances might change between the two. Again, there were no attendance records found. If they were, we would need to delete them before we could do this. And we hit submit. So confirm the submit. And again, it says that one student is transferred. However, are they transferred? Yes or no?
No.
No, they're just inactive.
That is correct. So again, if I wanted to find this student, how would I search for them?
Backslash in the last name.
/
/ I'm
There
sorry.
you go. Mouse. And sure enough, I can see Michael Mouse has been inactivated. And so now if Charlene went to do that state enrollment and pull them, when she went to find him, she would see on that enrollment record that they had been transferred out, and she could pull Michael in and it would not be in an E99 status because I've already done my part. So either it's kind of where it's prepped or it's not prepped, and either it'll go or not go, and they have to resolve it at a later date. So that is how we would do in-state transfers within there. Now, I've got another in-state to show you. So you saw me pull in Mark, and he came in as that E99 student, and that was because he was active in Apple Grove and had not been transferred out yet. I've got another example. I've got Mickey Mouse, who is at Robertsdale Elementary in Baldwin, and Twin has gone in and transferred him out. So Mickey's mom let them know they were leaving. So she went and did this process right here in Baldwin County. So now I'm the receiving LEA. I'm going to go pull him in from state enrollment in a transferred out status to show you that it comes in as an active student. So I'm going to swap to one of my primary schools. So let's go to Jeter. And I've just been told that Mickey Mouse is coming to me from Robertsdale in Baldwin County. So because this is a student coming from outside of the LEA, where do I go to start the process?
Enroll student.
Enroll student. So I'm going to put what information I know. So this is Mickey Mouse. And his date of birth is 3/26/2012. Male, not putting anything in these. I'm going to say he enrolled on Friday so I can get this enrollment. Full-time equivalency must be checked. And he actually is a pre-K student with them. So he's going to be a pre-K student with me. And he is a -3, so he's a special ed pre-K student. Entry code is going to be E1. District of residence. I mean, if I want to go ahead and put this here, I can. I don't have to. I'm not going to worry with all these. He's coming into Jeter Primary School. I don't want to look for any family information. I just want to search enrollment right now. So I'm looking for Mickey Mouse, and here we go. It labels him at the top. So here's a Mickey Mouse. So there's 2 Mickey Mouses in the state. Let's look. That's the right grade level, and yep, that's Robertsdale Elementary. So I know this is the record that I want. So I'm going to click this right here. Again, if I didn't get a good search, I could cancel, go back, retype in name. If this was not any of them, I could be a new no match, new enrollment, and just start them from here. Linda said, what is the grade level for regular pre-K? So if I go back, Linda, do you see how it does the different grade level denotions? So first grade, kindergarten, that's your regular pre-K, pre-K 4, 3, then -3. So that's what we're used to saying is 99, 98, 97, except 99 is graduated students here. All right, so go back to, oh, did it cancel anything? Let me make sure it didn't. Submit. All right, so I want this Mickey Mouse. So I'm gonna hit next,
Hey, Stacy,
confirm next.
no, I was gonna ask a question on that last screen. So I saw at the bottom of that search screen that you were just on, you don't have to go back. It just showed Opelika there, which is your district. So, you know, I know we were talking earlier that there's a different process for within district, but if that's the case, why is Opelika listed on this part of it?
So look at what, well, and I done enrolled them. All right, that's the Mickey that I was just working with. But do you notice what status they're in?
Right, yeah, I see the transferred out. So any currently enrolled in your district don't show up there?
They're not, I don't think they're supposed to. And we've asked that too, because Twin and I kept beating our head. This is the way that we were trying to do all enrollments when we were practicing this.
Right.
And it was not working on in LEA transfers. And we couldn't figure out why, even though we were seeing them here. And Twin kept saying, well, isn't there a reason that we could always just go hit state enrollment even when it's district searches? Because they do show up. And it was and again, it's something to do with that backside process of there being 2 records, and more technical than I tried to get buried into. I just kind of wrote it off and went, okay, it is what it is for right now. But the answer to that is no, even though they show up here, I can't use this for those districts because of that whole re-enrollment process and it not being a true transfer process.
Okay, all right. I know our people are going to ask when we
Yes.
show them this, you know, why can't they just do in district on this same screen and have
Yep.
it propped for provisional enrollment and all that?
Yep, because the record is still inside of your LEA, not sitting in ODS or anything that's to be pulled or something the way that state enrollment does now. They're built very differently.
Okay, thanks.
Stacy.
Yes.
All right, so not to confuse everyone, but I remember back in that office hours with Rayanne, she covered I guess the third method of enrolling, which is through PowerSchool enrollment form. So am I correct in that the process for us would not be to enroll a student? We would let them fill out the form. Once we verified all the information, we deliver it and they come over and say E90 status, that provisional enrollment, and then we would process them in, and it does the whole search the state and all that good stuff.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. So if you are, and I know this works with PowerSchool enrollment, I'm not exactly how all enrollments work. We're not an online enrollment vendor use in Opelika. I do my own enrollment thing and then upload a CSV is basically what I do. What, from my understanding, that y'all will have to do is everything's going to be done from this screen right here. So instead of y'all having to go and search from those outside, they're all going to dump here in this E90 and get the notifications that way. How all that's going to work, Julian, I don't know because we've not seen that. I do know Twin is a PowerSchool enrollment district, so I don't know if they're working to get something up in pilot to test that so that we can get screenshots of what that will look like or not. But again, that would just be with one vendor. I don't know if it'd be the exact same with every vendor.
Okay. Thanks.
So yeah, if you are an online enrollment district of any type, you will be slightly different because of how that piece has got to fit into this puzzle. Let me just check now that since I canceled out of that, did my mouse person, yep, there's Mickey, he came on in. And if I look at his transfer info, yep, he shows me as an E1. And so we've kind of looked at it through all different lenses. And so if I go back, was it at the high school that I had those provisional enrollments? Let's just walk through resolving those that I had. So if I look at my provisional enrollment at the high school, I have Donald. So remember, Donald was being enrolled at Apple Grove. So I've got to go and do what for him? Anybody know?
Set them inactive.
Just got to go in and do that transfer out to clear that. So if I go find Donald, and here's what I'm going to cheat and do, Control C, go here. Because do you know that you can search by ID number as well? So here he is. So I'm going to come down to functions. Oops. And I am going to transfer out of school. And he is going to move to Apple Grove. And he is transferring today. You notice it will let me withdraw a kid in a non-calendar day, but it won't let me enroll a kid in a non-calendar day. Y'all picked up on that? Transfer in state. We'll pretend Apple Grove is somewhere on the beach because that's where I wish I was instead of the rain. And hit submit. He'll confirm. And so now, is he really transferred? You might know.
Not until they resolve their E99 on their end, right?
That pretty much resolves it.
Oh, okay.
So now, let's see if it, yep. And so now, do you see? No more provisional enrollment on Donald Duck. He's gone. But I'm going to keep this on here. So if I know, I brought Mark Mouse in, but Mark Mouse still really isn't in. He's still in E99. So I'm going to give it a couple days to hope that, wherever he was going to, or wherever he was coming from, Apple Grove, goes in and withdraws them. And after a couple days, if I don't hear from them, then I'm going to pick up the phone and call Apple Grove and go, hey, I really need you to go in and withdraw Mark Mouse because I've got him as an E99 and I need him to go in the Scantron. We know those phone calls. Phyllis, we also use our own enrollment program and import. Once we import into PowerSchool, where there'll be a matching process that occurs in the state. So Phyllis, is yours with a third-party vendor, or is it something?
Is something that was written in-house.
So from my understanding, that answer is no. I honestly don't know. Because when I say doing enrollment, I'm not processing new people that way. Like I'm still having to go through the Enroll Student, but I will upload demographics to a CSV to change. But if it's new students, then I'm still gonna have to do this Enroll Student process. I don't know because there is a way to batch upload new students, but I don't know that it checks against state enrollment. I can ask Rayanne and see. Batch upload. So with that being said, let me kind of talk about those whole kindergarten students, because what's going to happen when they connect us to state enrollment. Y'all know what happens now when we go to enroll a kid when states are down. Everybody's used to getting those E98s, 97s. Basically, the same kind of thing is going to happen here. They're going to connect our live site to state enrollment and then take it down so that any kid we try to enroll is going to go to that I still get these confused because I don't think it's going to be a 98. I think everybody's going to be thrown into a 90 status. It's either going to be 98 or 90. So all these new kindergartners are going to get thrown into one of these two statuses. And then once in June, they do connect us all back live to state, it's going to check all these kids that we've built up through kindergarten registration or enrollment against the state, and we'll be able to do these resolutions. And yes, if you do get a whole bunch of E99s all of a sudden, there is this mass resolution. It's grayed out right now where you can hit resolve on all of them at one time to go ahead and bring them in, because you know that these kids have said they were coming to you. And if they've all gone out, or once state connects, all these people at other LEAs are going to get these notifications if they were a preschool kid or something like that, because kindergartners traditionally are brand new to the state and have not had any records inside of the state. The only ones that do are those who've been receiving special ed services or in a pre-K somewhere. So those will all start sending notifications once we go live with state enrollment. So kind of keep that in mind, that once that live date of enrollment is turned on, y'all are going to start getting notifications up in the top during the summer.
Hey, Stacey, I just thought about something there. So the state ID numbers are gonna be different for PowerSchool. And so what if we run into a situation, is state still gonna merge, I guess, those accounts? Because if we had some pre-K kids that enroll in kindergarten, that they, we're not gonna see them in the locator. Is there gonna be some kind of issue between the 19 number and the 20?
So it's not gonna assign, trying to think, is it gonna assign a student number in that case? Because I don't think it does. I think it searches state, and if it finds it, it captures that one that was. If I go, let me think this through, Julian. If I go put in a kid that throws into that 98 status, I'm gonna add that to my list to double check with Rayanne. Because we haven't looked at this when it was provisionally down to see what that 90 or 98 is going to look like. Because I'm thinking, because like right now, and the only reason I know this is because I finally did it and messed up last night. I was practicing with some enrollment and I accidentally was in production and enrolled Melvin Mouse in my real site and about had a heart attack. But what it did is it threw a PowerSchool student ID number. It was like 1004 in there. But what I'm thinking it would do is it's gonna, once it went and searched against that, it's gonna find the true number or either get assigned a state number and it overwrite that with that state enrollment process line on top of it, because I know that supersedes everything else. So I'm hoping that'll be a non-issue. Pat, will it assign a state ID even before state enrollment opens up permanently? That's what I'm going to find out, Pat. That's kind of what Julian was alluding to. Oh, Bradley.
So Stacey, if we go in and we search, like you were searching by name, but now, like when we search the state, we always search by social security number. But you know how people will come to you and give you their social security number, but then enroll in Auburn City Schools and not provide their social security number. And, they might do that. They put that apostrophe in their name for Opelika, but not for Auburn. So we sometimes get duplicate students. If we search by social security number, I mean, are there going to be certain parameters that they hit, like last name, first name, social security number, date of birth, so that we can find some of these kids and not have duplicate kids?
So that, remember that this is I hope I'm saying the right word, phonemic search. So whether we spell it exactly the right or it has an apostrophe or doesn't, it's going to find them. It's not as exact as like iNow was. iNow, if you didn't have the order of the characters in the same way, it wouldn't find them. This one does not work like that. Like I tried to search for Tom Cruise, CRUS or something without an E, and it was pulling up those with E's. It was pulling up everything with variations of that. Now, I will say with the whole social security number thing, I would advise not searching with social at all, because people nowadays not giving it. And I will say that there's some guidance coming soon from the state about social security numbers that's going to pretty much remove that altogether from the equation. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Let's see, I have some questions. Bradley says, what about students that move out of state? So pretty much that same process, Bradley. You're going to go in and transfer them out. And once you use that WD, I should know that off the top of my head and don't, code, it's going to go through and move them for you. So it's going to give them that inactive status for you. So they're still going to stay inactive. They don't like move out, but because it's got that out of state code, it's removing them from your, I know a lot of people are worried about cohort and all that. That still takes care of everything just like it has in the past. So all you're going to have to do is that transfer out and then put what that receiving district is going to be inside of there.
Stacey, when you transfer students out or inactivate them, does it automatically take out that school next year so that they don't get thrown into your database for the following year?
So remember, there's not a school next year in PowerSchool. That's a field that acts the same way in iNow. What we have in PowerSchool, when you did your setup, your schools have feeder schools
Correct.
pattern set. It's not attached to the student record. That's attached to the school. So when you do end of process, what it does is it takes those school feeders and matches where they need to go based on grade level.
But in that schedule field where it has school next year for that kid,
That's not coming from the student record. That's coming from the feeder pattern you have set up for the school in your school information.
okay, but how come right now in our instances, if it's in Chalkable, it's automatically in PowerSchool, and right now for like when we
Remember-
no-showed kids, we didn't necessarily remove the school next
Yeah,
year
remember
because
they have that scheduling sync sitting on top of us that's doing that, and we won't have that in real PowerSchool. That's doing that conversion for us right now. Does that make sense, Charlene? I don't know who is trying to get here, but we're closed. Jim says, do you get the notification of provisional enrollments every time you log in like iNow does? So Jim, it's not like in iNow where we're used to that pop-up screen that kind of comes out at you. It's not that, but you do get this little exclamation warning up here, and that stays there until it is resolved. So it's not in your face, but it is there. Kevin, we're a school mint district and are having to move to PowerSchool enrollment because they were told the API would be locked out for enrollment to all products except PowerSchool's own product due to complexity. So if you have another third party or in-house, you better be sure you're going to be allowed to use it, as we were not. Did not know that, Kevin. So that's heads up to anyone on the call that you might want to check if you're using a vendor other than PowerSchool's vendor. Jim says, I see you're using level data green when you go back and add the additional information after enrollment. Do you get a reminder from level data? Yes. So Jim, well, it's not like in your face reminder, but there is a page that you can all go to inside of all of your screens, and it's I don't know why it's not showing there. Oh, it's because I'm on the student screens. It's down here at the bottom. So I can go into state validation at any time and see if there's anything that has not been corrected. Like I've got all kind of things here. I've got 2 contacts with non-recommended characters. That's a new one. So apparently somebody's got something in there. Oh, can't have parentheses in their name. Okay. Pat, if there is no next school field on the student, how do we indicate that a student is going to a different school next year from the normal feeder school? There's different setup inside of there, Pat. Let me remember how we did that. You can choose different. Well, wait a minute. I take that back. Let me go back to a kid.
yeah, you can change this.
Yeah, it's actually on the preferences of. It is on this, isn't it?
schedules. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is going. Yeah, you can change it right here. It is on the
Yeah.
schedule. Just kidding there. So Pat, in your school setup, either from the school level or district level, I don't remember off the top of my head, you listed all the different schools that could be possible feeder patterns for the school. And some of them are, your school itself. So like if this kid was a 9th grader going to 10th, the next school would be up like a high school. Or if they're graduating, they're going to be graduated students. So I get 2 choices. You can swap it right here under that scheduling setup for it. Angie, our pre-K could go to any of our elementary schools. So how do you change their next? So it's right here, Angie, and you've got to make sure that you've set whatever school they're at, that whatever the possibility is of going to next would be listed as a feeder pattern in that school setup that you completed in your implementation checklist.
Hey, Stacey, I remember from the office hours, you made it a point to question Ray in on, I guess, summer withdrawals and stuff. Have they clarified how that's going to work yet?
So from my understanding, we're going to be able to pretty much use it like what I just showed you. Like it,
Okay.
like we'll be able to do this all stuff all year long, pretty much.
Okay.
All right, I want to go back to that screen because there are a couple of things that I do want to show you of different functionalities within here that are different from what we've done inside of iNow. So all right, let's just take Donald, for example, because he's in here now. Let me go back to the function screen. So we really looked at, you know, the transferring out of school, transferring to another school, re-enroll school. So let's look at these down here. These. So the first one, enroll student in remote and summer school class. Well, that's what we were talking about with the career tech classes, with the access classes, all of that kind of stuff. That is when you will use that. And it's basically just saying, if I want to enroll Donald in a CTE class somewhere else, I can. But these really don't happen until after you've done end of year and after, you know, that scheduling has been set up on that side. So a lot of us, we know we're having to wait on doing any of these type of remote enrollments, even though we'll be using some later. Create a new school enrollment. This is going to be a new concept to us, but it's actually something we are going to have to use. So how many of y'all do mid-year promotions for kids? Anybody? Kid gets enough credits first semester, they retained 10th grade, now they can actually move to 11th grade. Y'all move them? Okay. So you know what we do in I now to do that, correct? You go to the grade level history change, add it in there, say promoted mid-year, yada, yada. Hey, it's a little different in PowerSchool. How do I move a kid? So let's pretend Donald's been with us all year. Let's pretend he's behind on credits and he just got caught up. And now I can promote him to 11th grade. Everything within PowerSchool moves by transferring out and transferring in, transferring out and transferring in. Well, instead of having to create another transfer record, we can create what they call a new school enrollment. And basically that is what we will do with our mid-year grade level changes. So if I wanted to change Donald from a 10th to 11th grader because he earned credits, I'm going to hit this create new enrollment. Oh, he's inactive. Oh, I just transferred him out. Who did I just transfer in a while ago? Mickey Mouse, Mark Mouse. Oh, but he's an E99. Maybe I can still do it. I tell you what. Let's. Do I have any more mouse? Let's see if it'll let me do it on Mark as an E99. Ah. I don't think it'll let me. I'm probably gonna have to go pick Bradley. Yep. All right, so let's go to Bradley. So let's say, oh, Bradley. So we're on the new school enrollment screen. Let's say that he is now eligible to be promoted to 11th grade. And I can up or down. So basically what I'm going to do is mimic the transferring out of the school and then re-enrolling back in without having to do that two-step process. It just allows for that to not have to be processed. So I'm going to say on, again, the 12th. So we'll say the exit code is transfer in system public because he's staying in system. His entry date, actually, let's change that to the 11th, to the 12th. His entry code is an E1. He's full-time, but instead of grade 10, he is now going to be a grade 11 district of residence. So it's a very condensed screen of the two different screens in one. And then I hit submit. And now if I go back, it's just going to take me to that screen. But do you see he is now an 11th grader? And if I scroll down to enrollment and look at transfer info, it creates that record without having to go through two steps. So that create new school enrollment screen is used to do those mid-year grade level changes, whether it is a promotion or a demotion, because we do know that there are times where kids are not meeting at grade level and they want to demote them down to give them another year. We know those kind of things. And so we will put those in there. I'm not the only one. The CSFO just decided to come in and work today. Sorry. Sorry, y'all. And so we put those in. So any questions on how we would do grade level changes with these?
So this is for all, but sometimes our registrars will put the wrong one in by mistake when they're enrolling the kids. So would they make that change here as well?
I was hoping somebody would ask that, Julian, because that was exactly what I asked. The answer is actually no. If it was a true mistake, if I truly made a mistake on a kid, so who did I just enroll just a second ago? Mark. Oops. There is a process, and you're going to love this because y'all know what we have to do right now in I now. had to go delete the record and then pull them back in real quick at the right grade level. If this was a true mistake, I enrolled him at grade 11 and oh, he was supposed to be a grade 12. You do not do the create new record. You actually come in here. I can't do it on a provisional. Let's go to Bradley again. Let's just pretend this was him. You would go back to the record that you would go into transfer info and then click back on where you just enrolled them and change that grade level and hit submit. And that's all you do. So if you legitimately made a mistake, then all you do is come back to this transfer info screen, click on it, doesn't matter which one of these, and change the grade level. But if it's a mid-year something, not a mistake, then you need to go through the create a new school enrollment record to show that they're only being that grade level from this point on. You don't want to just go change it, or else what it would do is change it to the very beginning of when they enrolled with you. Okay, so that's kind of two different situations there. If you make a mistake, click on the record, go change it. If you need to change it mid-year where you want to show that they were at this grade level for this portion of the year and this grade level for the rest of the year, you want to do that create a new school enrollment. All right, if I go back to the transfer function screen, let's look at what else is on here. There's this on-screen transaction report. I think that's something to do with lunch, so is that. And enroll new student living in the same household. Basically what that's gonna do is go to the search enrollment screen to go through state, but then like tries to keep some of the family linking stuff there. I don't know that I'm ever gonna use all of that till I get my feet under the ground with what I'm supposed to do with this enrollment. Michelle said, regarding the remote enrollment for CTE purposes, what if we only offer those courses to our district? Do we have to use the remote enrollment option? So Michelle, are these taught on campus or at a different building? You can unmute Michelle. Do other LEAs use, is it just one school or multiple schools that use that site? Then it's your option. If you want to build it within yours, your high school, then you can, or else you can put them as their own school and do. Because like, I'm gonna take our alternative school, for example. Our kids stay enrolled at our middle and high school, but they get to time out and go over to the alternative school in certain situations. And those teachers are all teachers at our middle school and high school that are in our master schedule, and we just move them within there. So, I mean, you have options. Just think about them carefully about which way you want them to go within your district.
Stacy, I have a question about remote enrollment as well. So in thinking about students that are doing virtual classes, like in our high schools and middle schools, we will probably have one teacher in the county that may service, you know, our 7 schools. Like we may have one teacher that's doing all the math virtual classes. So would that be a remote school enrollment situation where we would set her schedule up at her home school, and then the students that are in the other high schools would be a remote enrollment into that class?
You can do that. So like if you set her schedule at, you know, if she's at, let's say up like a high school, and then I had students at other schools that were coming to her, they could easily, you could easily feed students from any of the schools in your district to another school in your district. For example, let's say that I had a middle school student of mine that wanted to take algebra at the high school. That would be the same situation of what you're wanting to do with one person at this school facilitating all these other kids, and it would push back to their record when Shell posted at that high school.
So at the school that does not have, maybe there's a school that does not have any virtual learning teachers, those kids would still just be enrolled in classes, a remote enrollment out to the other schools.
Because in fact, the state, and I don't know that they've said anything about this yet, but I know that they are, as far as active schools in the state, everybody is supposed to have a a virtual program school kind of stood up where if you wanted to create another school in PowerSchool to call it your virtual and put all of your virtual classes in there and just do remote enrollments to them so you can facilitate all under one, you could do it that way. Some districts I've heard are doing that. There's a lot of options with this whole remote school enrollment idea. So you just have to kind of think through what would be easiest, best, most efficient. And it might be that this first year you keep everything kind of status quo and then next year do some separating out. Hopefully we won't have as much virtual next year. Fingers crossed. But anyway, guys, on enrollment, that's kind of all there is to it, and the back and forth of in district, out of district. Feel free to ask any other questions. Has anything kind of come up? Does that give you enough to show you what you need to show your registrars as far as how to get the records moved? Now, once you get the records moved, as far as how you get them to go in and start filling out, all of these different, once I get on a kid, I do have to go in and, put in the demographics, put in the contacts, put in the everything in there. That's still got to be a process that you'll have to figure out how you want to communicate that to your districts. We'll need to make sure that all state required fields get put in until they kind of all get loaded in here and all the code sets get in. We can't really go through what do you do after you get them into the school, but at least we kind of know exactly what to do to get them into the school at this point, and then we'll take the next in there. Candace, yes, we showed how you would do new student enrollment. So it will be in the recording if we need to look back over it. Oh, like okay, so if brand new student has never been in the state, Candace, is that what you're getting at? Okay, so we are going to, she's not been in my district, so that means I've got to go to enroll new student. So we got Luke Skywalker. He came to me today. His birthday is 4/2/2005. He's a male, so that would put him in 10th grade. Let's say, again, I'm backdating simply because I'm in spring break, so it wouldn't let me do this, but let's pretend that today was the 12th. He told me he's a 10th grader and he's going to come in as a resident enrollment, district of residence. Again, I'm not going to fill any of this out because I just want it to go search state locator for me. So I put in my bare minimum. I'm going to hit submit. Let's see. I actually have no Luke Skywalkers anywhere in the state, or if I did and they weren't him, then what I would do is hit this no match, new enrollment. I would hit next, confirm next. And now, yep, simple as can be. He's in there, and I was last on the demographics page, so I, as a registrar, could start putting in all the wonderful fields that we have to put in on all these children that we keep up with. Yep. I think, the more we get into this, it will become a streamlined process. It's just understanding that it's different from what we've been doing in the past. So once we get those down, and I think the one that's going to be the most to wrap our head around is that whole in-district transfer, making sure we hit those 3 processes in the order that they need to be hit. Because I want to tell you, you could go and do that enroll student and try to pull somebody in from your district and do. The thing is, nothing's going to happen. And so you're going to drive yourself batty going, I know I pulled this kid in, where are they at? And it's because you didn't go through the right process of it. Any other questions, or is there anything else with enrollment? Do you want me to go back over a part of the process? So will Luke Skywalker now show up in state locator hypothetically? Yes, he sure will. So if one of the other pilots went in and pulled up Luke Skywalker, they would see that he is enrolled in there.
Hey, Stacy, back to remote enrollment and automated scheduling, and maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention in the training. Is there a way to do course requests when the courses are going to be remote in the automated scheduling?
No, there's not. So like it doesn't, remote enrollment doesn't feed off of requests. And just to show you, so let's, I mean, I've got Luke Skywalker enrolled now. So if I go to his function screen and go to enroll in remote or summer school class, here's what the process looks like. Where is the class held? So let's pretend, I know he's at the high school. Let's pretend that, I don't know, that the middle school was a CTE school or something. Oh, geez, I have to know the course. Yeah, I'd have to type in the course number. Go to the middle school. See, spreadsheets do come in handy. Let's pretend there's that. And then enrollment date would be 22nd. Oh, it says no sections available. So I would have to have something where they're actually scheduled. Not have, oh, here we go. Oh, I need something. Oh, here we go. I can just type in names. Hey, see, I haven't done this yet. Learning with you. Oh, let me let Joy in. Math. Okay, there we go. And so what it does is it searches that other school once you have the course number, and you say what section of it you are wanting to put them in. And so let's say I want them in this fourth block or fourth period, whatever, and then hit submit. So now he's in that schedule in her class.
So from an automated, and I'm just trying to think this through from our high school that is trying to do the automated scheduler that's going to have a lot of access, they're still not going to have like they almost have to know ahead of time which students are taking those courses on access so that they don't request those courses for the student. So that it doesn't, so let me use English as an example.
Okay.
If we have English 12, we have a senior who's taking English 12, but they want to do it on access, then we can't put in a course request for English 12 for that student because it's going to build more English 12 sections than we need.
That's right. You're taking up a seat for a physical student in an English 12 in your building class.
Right.
So yes.
Okay.
Whoa, Jim Davis, what did you just say? Sorry, Matthew, are you serious? You went into iNow and you just saw Luke Skywalker in there? Are
Yeah.
they seriously feeding that to them?
Yes, they are.
Same birthday?
No, you're kidding me. I'm sorry. I gotta go see this.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
No, I was about to say, look, I'm gonna be making a phone call in a minute going, something's not right.
I just wondered how many you had in there.
Look, don't do that to me.
No, I'm serious. It's in there.
It is in there, Stacy. Kindergarten, Luke Skywalker, 3995.
Oh, wait a
Oh,
minute.
that's
Maybe
not the same one.
that's
Was
not
that
the
your
same one
birthday?
because no.
Okay.
So
Oh.
no, there was apparently we have a Luke Skywalker in Alabama somewhere.
Yeah, we did.
What are the chances of that? I didn't look at it close enough.
Oh, I thought I was gonna have to call somebody for a minute. All right. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, Brian, I'm sure I'll have Darth Vader in here at some point. But back to Matthew. So this is what, and for everybody who hasn't seen like the remote summer school in the Alabama version of it, this is exactly what you do. Is you find that, you find the section, and you are moving those in there. And like if I go look at his schedule, it's not going to show it. Let's see. It shows it in the list view, but it doesn't show it in the bail schedule view because it's not a part of your bail schedule. So that is something that you need to know when you try to look to know where that kid is at, is it shows it in one view, but not the other.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, especially since we have to have scheduling done before like May.
Okay, but you know that you don't do,
enrollment.
you're not going to do any remote enrollments before then though, right?
Right, yeah, but like in the example that I gave, those, I don't know how our high schools are going to know which students need to do virtual and or which students are going to do access and which ones aren't, so that they know which class. Yeah.
So what we did, because you're right, it's going to be a pain. We created I've got a bunch of fake classes. Like literally when you look at some of my courses, you're going to see fake in them. because what I did is build placeholders for them so I know they're accounted for. And then I could have, like, once those go into the live side, so once building, loading, and all's done, so I've got a fake English in like a 5th period that's not part of my 4-period blocks, it's actual scheduling that I know are going to be the people that I move into remote enrollment for welding or something like that. What I'm going to do is be able to take all of those kids in one chunk and do a mass from the group function screen on the main menu and move them all into that remote enrollment section at one time. So for every kid that I know wants to do something in Access or wants to do something in a CTE or something like that, I'm building a placeholder for them as a request. So it builds it into their schedule. And I've got a list of what all those requests are that I'm going to say this request group that goes into this class all have to be moved to Access English. All of them in this have got to be moved to CTE welding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It helps us keep up with it.
Yeah, and that's my concern, especially for our high school, is keeping track of that. Like, how are they going to know? How are they going to know that the schedules are complete if they don't have some sort of placeholder in there like you're talking about?
Exactly. So I use a lot of fake. I use that schedule filler course code, pulled it down, and it's shredded out into a bunch of different things. And it's fake classes of this, 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 and this. And then I've got my list that I've got to go move all of these. And that, again, it allows me to group them all at one time. So I'm moving by course and not by individual student. Linda says, please review the 3 processes. So Linda, you want for the transferring in, see, look, I keep going back and forth to my notes because I'm still learning this with y'all. Transferring in district.
Stacy, could you send us a copy of your notes? You know, how you had the steps that you go through?
They're very rudimentary, but oh, I will tell y'all this. Devlin is on this call. The state is working on putting together job aids for, y'all know what I mean when I say job aids, the little tutorial sheets of what to do.
Right.
They are working on putting those together with Alabama specific directions for us. So she's getting the recording and taking notes, and they're going to build these with screenshots and help us out with this. But I'll be glad to send y'all, you know, my little, literally that's all it says, kind of stuff. All right, so let's test everybody. I want to transfer within district. So let's pretend Bradley is going to move from the high school to the middle school. We're just going to move kids around. And I got to use one that I can actually show you a name of. So he's at the high school currently. Somebody want to walk me through it? How do I get Bradley moved from the high school to the middle school?
I can do it, but I was trying to get everybody else a chance to talk.
Come on, somebody jump in. Make him inactive first. Yep, Stephanie, how do I do that? Can y'all tell?
Look under enrollment functions, transfer out of school.
Where do I get to that at? Look, we're playing the peanut butter and jelly game.
You pull up the student, then you go to enrollment.
All right, so I've already got him pulled, so here he is.
Okay, so scroll down to on the left-hand side to go under enrollment. Click on functions. Transfer out of school. Fill in information, hit submit.
Look, we're gonna have this down today. So transfer date is today. Actually, transfer date is the 12th. Exit code. What's my exit code gonna be?
Oh, where is he going? I'm sorry.
He's going to my middle school, so we're keeping him in district.
Okay, so go up. It's transferred. Yeah, right there. Yeah, it's just a problem.
Okay. Do I need to do anything down here?
No. Submit. Confirm submit.
So what have I just done? Have I transferred him like the screen says?
No, he's just
No.
inactive.
Okay, where do I go now?
Back to functions. Transfer to another school.
Yep.
Moving him to the middle school. Submit. Okay, so what have I done now? We
Made him
inactive.
available for the other. made him available for the other school to enroll.
Okay. So what status is he in? What's his enrollment
Inactive.
status?
Provisional.
Inactive at the
Inactive.
It's inactive. And what school is he located in?
Middle school.
Right. If I tried to search him in the high school, he's not going to be found whether I search active or inactive. Only going to be found at the high school. So how do I now, what do I do?
You go to the middle school. You're trying to enroll him in the middle school, correct?
Mhm.
So you go to the middle school.
Yep. Okay. What do I do here?
Re-enroll.
How do I get to there?
You search him as an inactive student.
How do
And
I
you
find
search
that?
him as a
/
/ and then who was it? Bradley once again?
Mhm.
Yeah, Bradley.
And how do I know that he's inactive? Like what tells me in this screen that he's
That
inactive?
he's gray. The little people are gray.
All right. So how do I get him in here?
Functions.
Mm-hmm.
Re-enroll.
We have such fast learners. And I'm going to re-enroll them on the same day that I took them out. So resident, he moved in, fill out FTE. Oh yeah, he can only be 8th grade right now. I got to remember to change him back. Do y'all know why it says Chambers County right here? You may know.
No, I was wondering that myself.
I don't live in Opelika City Schools school zone.
Oh, you live in okay.
So this is the school zone he resides in.
Oh, gotcha.
And then again, what do we have to remember to change? This right here. Because it defaults to yes. We hit no. And we hit submit. And it goes, it's checking your district and it goes, hey, is this the kid that you want? Yep. Hit next, confirm. And now where is Bradley's enrollment record at?
Middle school.
Yep. Now I gotta remember to move back.
Did someone have to actually research and set the district, the school district, the district of residence? Or has the state got a locator somehow that's identifying that based off of address?
No, it's not going to base it off of address. You're going to have to set it. The documentation from the state has not come out yet saying we have to set it, but don't be surprised if it does, because do y'all know that piece of paper that we have to fill out with CSFOs every year for, it's Andy Craig that wants it, where they ask how many people don't live within your tax zone so that they know how to allocate all that, who's not in your residence. If we all have that set, it's a very quick query to see who does not live within your district so that you could send that numbers. And at that point, the state can then pull it and we wouldn't have to. So I think they're thinking about some of that. That's not in stone or anything yet, so don't quote me on it, but.
Hey, Stacey, something else that's close to that, if you pull up a kid, you can pull up your son real quick. And notice on the demographics, the county field is now there. We happen to sit in between two counties, so we have to report similar, which students are enrolled from which one. I've been talking to the Charleses at the state. They're trying to get that pulled in through the level data plug-in as well. So right now it's a drop-down list, but it should be something that's auto-populated just like you did before.
That would be amazing. And I do know because, Al from Level Data reached out to me yesterday, and I know they had a conversation with the state and PowerSchool about some things. So things are still getting finalized. And I know that freaks a lot of people out. I mean, it freaks us as pilots out that we're 2 months from this happening and not everything's nailed down. But even Rayanne said that when they did the North Carolina transition and all the other transitions, a lot of things happened in the last, at the last moments. This is not abnormal. I know it feels like it is to us because we are a state that we like to know things ahead of time, what we have to do, and we need our little ducks in a row kind of thing because we all have a million things on our plate and try to plan correctly. But a lot of this is still getting built out. A lot of it is still changing. So that's why I'm tiptoeing around what I show y'all on these Tuesdays and what I don't, because if there's stuff that's still got a lot that's being added, I don't want to show that to you yet and confuse you, because y'all see a lot right now in PowerSchool that's not going to be there come go live possibly and things such as that. So
Hey Stacey, I know Devlin's on the call, so I'll share this. Just like you said, you know, we kind of like to know what's going on. We're getting it. I don't know about you guys. I know I'm getting it from my administrators here. They feel like they're in the dark, and I'm kind of in the same situation. You don't want to share too much because you'll cause confusion with, well, the final product won't look like this. But if we could get some type of progress report, I know we get those emails from Elizabeth Davis every week, but I mean, something with more definitive, like here we are working towards this goal from the state and PowerSchool, that would probably help us out more to kind of relay that to our stakeholders locally, because, you know, they're getting kind of tired of me saying, you know, that's not defined yet and don't have an update on that. So just throwing it out there.
Yep, and Julia and I would, my recommendation is always to, you know, our project managers, Gene Scott, is for them to email and go, can we get an updated roadmap or something like that? Because, and I will say, and that's one of the reasons that I started doing these Tuesdays, is I know a lot more gets shared with pilots just simply because we have to actively test things. And so it's not like we got an NDA or anything. So I'm sharing what I know when I know it's as close to being as final as possible. And that doesn't mean that this can't come and burn me, because that something could change next week and completely wipe all this. And then I have to come back and go, all right, guys, we got to backtrack because now it's going to be like this. I'm trying to use my best faith judgment and knowing that that's what it's going to look as best possible in its final development to show you, to get you to start being able to do some trainings and stuff with these videos. So I get the frustrations. Oh, Angie asked a question. What if he never goes to the school we said he would, like they are all of a sudden moved out of state? So remember that provisional enrollment screen, there was, and I think I have to go back to district to see the one that has, I think I've already resolved it. Yeah, this one right here. So this is saying, all right, let me double check this. Y'all just bear with me for a minute. What is his status at the middle school? Is he coming in or going out? Okay, he's transfer info. He's an E99. So we pulled him in, and the other, what did I do with him? I pulled him in.
You pulled him in, but Apple Grove hasn't released.
That's what it was. I had to stop and think. If I get that situation where they came in and I haven't done the like, let's say that he had moved from one school to the other, because we have that happen. I'll have a kid that'll move from Carver, say they're going to Jeter, and then they just all of a sudden disappear because they went to Georgia. I mean, we're on the state line. It happens all the time. If that does happen, then what you would do at that, you would have a message on that receiving school about this right here is an E99, basically them coming in, but they haven't been enrolled or have been enrolled. It'll be one of these other codes. You can hit this no show, which means no, this didn't happen. That is what we've been told that this button right here is for, and that will basically throw them back to the other school just as an inactive student. So if that did happen, it'd be one of those situations where you might have to research and go, well, did Bradley actually move to that other school? If he didn't, then I might have to contact mom and go, hey, did y'all move somewhere else? Because that school said that he didn't show up. And she went, oh yeah, I moved to Georgia. Well, then if that's the case, you would need to go back to that transfer record, that withdrawal record that we're used to, and update that code from being transfer in district to transfer out of state. So it's not expecting that other step at that point. Does that make sense?
Stacey, I have a course question again.
Mm-hmm.
In like harmonizing instrument courses, it's set as a 1 credit.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to add a shred out to do it as half a credit? Or if the student only takes it half a year, will it only give half a credit?
Is it a year-long course?
It doesn't indicate that in the,
No, I mean, how are you teaching it as a year long or a?
no, we're teaching it half a year.
So in the storing process, there are options. I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants on this one, y'all.
But it states that it's a 1 credit, but we only want to give half a credit.
Mm-hmm. I've not done this yet, so I'm trying to remember where it's at. Is it district or is it? I'm not in the school system. Permanently stored grades. Okay, so here's the permanently stored. So if we were posting's done and you wanted to store grades, when you go to store those, there is a store with credit and an option of how much course credit you're wanting to store with. So if you're only wanting to give them half of the credit and it's a whole credit course, you could do that and then do it as a 50% credit here. So there's options there. You can either shred it and put it as a half credit or keep it as a whole, because you might have some courses that use it as a whole and some that use it as a half, and then store within there. And remember, there's different filters. So if you want to look for a specific course and section, because it's only that course or section that you need to do at that half, you can do that.
Okay.
Said, transfer out from losing school to make okay. Step 2, transfer to another school is inactive record to show new school. That is correct, Mackie.
Yeah, I was answering Michelle's question
Oh.
earlier. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all good.
That's me trying to multitask. Shelley, we currently have a serving school and I now for our virtual school.
Hi, my name is Teresa Thomas, and my
Hello,
daughter.
Teresa. Nice to meet you. As we are working on scheduling, I was told not to create as a school in PowerSchool. Do you have any idea that we would have a virtual instance pushed to us? Do you know when that might happen? I do not, and that's one of the things I was talking about, that I know the state has said that they've created in the list of valid schools for every school in the state. If you look your district up at the ALSDE now in your list of valid schools, we all have a virtual program school slot now where if we wanted to, but I haven't heard them say anything about them pushing that school instance to us, just like they're not pushing summer school instances to us. We're going to have to stand those schools up ourselves. But let me ask Rayanne and Charles if that's on the roadmap, and they just hadn't told, but I've always been under the impression we'll have to stand those up on our own, but I'll find out.
Yeah, Stacy, that's what I was thinking when we started implementation last year, January, February. We didn't have that school, and the implementation specialist actually recommended that. So I'd actually asked when, this year I set the schools up last year. And so since that didn't exist last year, I had asked about going in and setting up a school, in our instance this year, and I was told not to. So when I reached out to Charles and asked him that, he even gave me, I can't remember, I'd have to look back at the email, but he even gave me a number of what our school would be. But he just said that he didn't know where the process that was yet. So I just wasn't sure, since we're scheduling students, I just didn't know how soon that might happen.
Yeah, because I know, well, and a lot of people, and I'm kind of in the same boat with them, that if we're going to have these other schools set up, I'd rather stand them up now and do all of the schools set up for all schools in the district right now, instead of doing it for all that I have now and then having to go back through that entire checklist for 1 or 2 more schools again. I'd kind of like to be able to just do them and push all at one time and be done with it. So I'll find out that and get that back to y'all as soon as possible. Because there are a lot of flexibility in these whole other schools. I mean, I can't say that I'm not toying with the idea of putting my alternative school as a separate school in PowerSchool that is all remote enrollment. It's not separate school in the eyes of the state because it's not a school, it's a program. But we can use these schools as a way to do programs outside of school and not have to do a convoluted master schedule with these things built in, where this master schedule does something completely different. It allows you to actually separate some things and it flow back and forth very nicely.
Stacy, we've never set up an actual summer school, and now we always just took the grades and edited that in their home schools. Are we going to be required to use a summer school with PowerSchool?
I mean, I don't know that the state is. I can't speak on their behalf of that. I honestly don't know. I'm going to do it just because it gives us the flexibility of actually putting the teacher, because right now it's all falling on us in the office we get this little piece of paper that says they made up 60. So now I can go put that 60 in and basically just add something to the transcript. Whereas this, you can actually run a fully functioning school in the summer, having a term built in that you can have a teacher put grades in for individual assignments to have have record of where this grade came from, and then it all pushed back to the transcript for you and it not have to be manually entered on all those kids in the district.
Would that happen for this summer or would that be for
next summer?
Okay.
Yeah. This year I knew you're going, Jill. Yeah, this summer, y'all, we're doing just like we have in the past, where we will add those summer school records into the transcripts pretty much in PowerSchool after we get, I think we're going to be able to do it two ways. Again, don't quote me on this. They're either going to put out guidance that says we have to put it in now before they do, because they're doing two pools of data, one that's our like end of year data, and then they'll do a summer pool of data that we can put it in there, or you can wait and put it into PowerSchool after we pull the historical grades in and manually enter them there. I don't know which way they're going to want them to go. I know the only ones that's really going to matter are going to be your seniors, to make sure they get into iNow to feed back to Replicator to know that they graduated, if you got any seniors that have to go to summer school to graduate. So we're waiting on guidance from the state on what that end of year is going to really be like. Any other questions on this, guys?
I have a couple of questions from like 2 months ago. Can I ask those?
Yeah, Pat.
Okay, well, I'm officially retired, but I'm back on contract. And so I lost 2 months worth of meetings, and I'm kind of trying to catch up on those. So back in early January, you talked about final grade reporting term setup, or in December. And our setup for the high school is pretty much like yours, except for our quarter-long classes, we don't give exams the first quarter and the third quarter, just because of the ease in iNow. It's not easy to do that, so we didn't do it. We only give quarter exams at the end of the semester, so only second quarter and fourth quarter get exams. So when I set this up in iNow, am I supposed to call those exams for second and fourth quarter classes X1 and X2, or X2 and X4, or does it matter?
In all actuality, it doesn't matter, but for consistency of how you might be, just because I know how object reports are written and things like that, if you decide to code a transcript for your district or something, I know you're going to want things to line up. You probably want to do 2 and 4 just so that you can get, because what most of us are going to do or create, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but different quarter report cards to pull so that things line up. You don't want things that are like shifted along the way that looks very ugly. Does that make sense, Pat?
Yes, but if that's the case, when I was looking at your spreadsheet that you did, where you've got all 4 quarters, you had, for the year long, you had X1 and X2, and for the semesters, you had X1 and X2. But for the quarters, you had X1, X2, X3, and X4.
Correct. And the reason that I did that X1 and X2 for the year long is because we have midterms and finals. And so that midterm is basically, it's a 10-10 split at that point that becomes 20%. And so it's like, it's a 20-20-10, 20-20-10 formula that's going to get that year long at the end of a year long. And so it's X1 and X2 because of it being the 2 different semester exams.
Okay.
And it can
I'm
be,
just thinking they won't line up as far as time is concerned. Your quarters, you'll have your X2 in December,
That's
but for your
correct.
semesters, you'll have X1. That's not going to matter,
Mm-mm.
even on your report cards?
Yes, because of the way I'm going to code them out.
Oh, so I've got to get with you on how to set up our report cards so they work.
No, you don't have to get with me. You can set I mean, you have flexibility of how you want to do yours within there, Pat. It's
Okay.
just a matter of what's going to make sense to you, knowing that we want to keep the same naming nomenclature in place of using the alphabet Q, S, X, and Y with the 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, just so it'll transfer among the state. Stay within that alphabet range, and then the 1, 2, 3s, however you want to match them up is going to be up to you.
Okay. All right, next. I have another question, but go ahead and field other people's questions and then come back to me.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, so the next question, we are buying prior years of data. And I know you've talked about how it doesn't have to be so granular. It can just be very basic, just put in the year. That I understand, but do I need to go like pull from my iNow transcripts and see all of the years that are actually listed in the transcript so I get all of the years I'm supposed to?
So the only reason I knew is they pulled a file for us and we knew how far back. I'm trying to think, was it in data migration that we saw it? Hang on one second. I might be able to show you where. And you know these migration surveys we had to do? Have y'all done your historical grades and stored grades?
I don't think so. Maybe.
This is where, gosh, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, there was a whole list of what you saw in the transcripts and you had to match up what the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that kind of told me, like the latest year that I found was where I had to end up going back to, but you could do a query inside of your transcripts, Pat, to see if you could figure out what the latest year you had that presented on a transcript was. Like, that's how I figured out mine was back to 98, 99.
Okay.
Stacey, I just have a really quick question on the reporting term setup. So I was rewatching some of those WebExes, and when Christy presented, I noticed that you have a Y1 in every category, like Q1, X1, Y1, Q2, X2. That's how we set it up now. Hers didn't have a Y1 in every category. Is that just a preference?
What did she use on everything? Y1 is what we're determined to be the final grade, so that would have had to have been in there.
Yeah, it just wasn't in her semester one. So she was just showing an example of like a junior high. And it was just an S1 and an X1. And so they're not being a Y1 confused me, but I'm going to put it because that's what we have now. We use FIN.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to put it in there.
Do you know which webinar that you were watching that she did that in?
I can send it to you.
Yes, please do, so that I can ask her about that and we make sure we get all on the same page.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too, because I talked to my implementation manager yesterday and I watched that same video that Stacy was just talking about. And I even emailed my implementation manager this morning to make sure I didn't misunderstand him in our call yesterday. And he said that Y1 is not required if you're not storing grades for Y1. Like in our case, our high school 4-credit classes, we issue credit based on semester 1, half a credit, semester 2, half a credit. So we would have no reason to have a year-long grade unless I'm missing something.
Well, and all right, let me pull up. Y'all remind me I'm in production when I go here, because I want to go here. And don't touch enrollment inside of here. Let's go to the high school. All right, should go to the middle school. Okay. So what they are saying do is put S1s here instead of Y1s.
Yeah, so like in our example, your 21, 22 would be Q1, Q2, S1, Q3, Q4, S2 for our year-long classes. And then semester one would be Q1, Q2, S1. And then semester two, Q3, Q4, S2.
Here's where, and again, we're trying to make this across the state, Y1 be final grade, because there are some districts that give semester grades. There are some that do not. And even when they give the semester grade is that final end grade. But because S1 in a year-long situation, because there are some districts that to calculate a Y1 will do Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, 25% of each of them, that's your Y1. There are some districts that factor in exams and factor in semester averages to get, so they'll like do a Q1, Q2, get a semester average, do a Q3, Q4, get a semester average, and then they average the 2 semesters to get a Y1. Well, and if you have an LEA that does that, then you've got semester S1 up here, meaning semester, but then you have an S1 down here, meaning final grade. If we start getting off track like that throughout the state, what's going to happen when we start transferring these grades and S1s from you come to an S1 field for me? And mine, S1 just means semester and it's not the final grade. Well, if I have a transcript that is coded to pull all Y1s because Y1 is designated as final grade that receives credit, if I go run it on the kid that transferred from you to me with an S1, it's not going to pull those grades. Like I would have to hand redo everything.
Yeah, so here's a question for you though. You can't have 2 Y1s in a year-long term, can you?
No, you only want the Y1 to be the final. So
right,
you'll
but
use,
if I'm issuing credits, a half credit first semester, a half credit second semester, then your transcript's going to have to look for credit at Q2 and credit at Y1.
nope, because in that stored grades process, you have the option of when you go to store grades for S1, store with half credit there.
Under, so you're saying store Y1 twice, the first time with 50% of the credit and the second time, because that's the part, like, how am I going to store the Y1 twice? Once at the end of first semester and once at the end of second semester.
Let me go back. Make sure I'm in pilot. Grades. I look for store and not permanently store. So each time you go through a different length of time for this, like right now we're in, Q4 now. When you're in Q1, semester 1 shows as an option here. So, I could go back here to semester 1. And do you see how each time it kind of, well, that just goes back to, I go to Q2. Why does it keep showing semester 2? Maybe because it's in. I got to figure out this whole stored grade thing. But I know that even if it's a year-long class, if I'm storing % of course credit, like I can store, even if it's a year long, at this point in time, I can store 2 halves. I've got to do more questioning of them of this because we've not done a store grades practice as pilots.
Yeah, I don't see having just for the districts like ours that do a half credit per semester. I don't see how having one Y1 store code is going to work, because like when we store it, and I'm thinking about it from a transcript standpoint, not from a credit standpoint. So
yeah, same. That's what I'm looking at.
Standpoint, we can't put, let's say the kid made an 80 first semester and 90 second semester. If we post an 80 to Y1 first semester, when we permanently store grades second semester, if we try to store it to Y1, isn't that 80 going to be overwritten with the 90?
That's what I'm thinking, because when you, on your transcript, Matthew, you are going to want it to show both grades and both credits, correct?
Correct, yeah. So if the kid made an 80, they get a half credit, and then if they made a 90 second semester and get a half credit.
Yeah, like right now we do FIN 1, FIN 2, 3, and 4. That's the final credit bearing category. So I see what Matthew's saying, that he thinks it's going to override if it's got the same name.
Yeah, I see that too.
And that's
And
what they tell
Jill
us.
asking, why would it override if it's a different term? For a year-long course, it's not a different term.
That's right. Because you're talking about and having this chunk right here.
Right. So the way I understand this permanently stored grades is like in the example I'm giving where it's half credits, we run this permanently stored grades twice. We're going to run it once to store the second 9 weeks grade without issuing credit. Then we're going to run it a second time to store the first semester average grade and issue credit based on that first semester average. So if that is true, and we do that again, if we repeat that process fourth 9 weeks, we're storing once for fourth 9 weeks and a second time to store second semester, and that's where we're awarding credit. If there's a yearly that also has to be in there, which doesn't work for us based on issuing credit, then at the end of the year, we'd have to run a third time permanently store grades and store into the yearly average without issuing credit because we already issued credit based on the semesters.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if it will just throw two separate Y1s into the historical grade file based on the time at which you stored, which I'm hoping is what it will do, because then that will fix the issue. If it doesn't and it overwrites, that's where the issue is going to come in. So we need to practice this feature and find that out so that y'all will know how to set up final grade reporting terms.
Yeah, and like we got an email earlier this week that this is kind of the next thing up from our implementation manager. So I know whoever, Matt Miller is our implementation manager. So whoever else has Matt.
Yeah, that's Matthew. That's why I'm looking into it, but I don't want to set it up incorrectly.
Right.
But I have 4 quarters, 2 semesters, and a year. So why wouldn't you set it up that way?
We don't issue any credit. We don't have any quarter-long courses, so I don't need a quarter-long term.
Okay,
So,
we do. Okay.
yeah. Our courses, the minimum length of time for a course is a semester.
All right, Matthew, we have, let me move this little thing and get to my calendar because I'm pretty sure we have a pilot meeting this week. And I will make sure to bring that up. I know Rayanne has office hours. Yeah, y'all don't forget this afternoon, there's office hours from 2 to 3, and she's talking about contacts. If it doesn't fill up the whole hour, we can jump in with this question and see if we can get some clarification during those office hours. If she runs out, then yeah, I've got a pilot work session Wednesday from 2 to 4. I will definitely bring it back up in there and then shoot out an email of what I find out.
Yeah, so let me address Jill's question there too, because this is something that I misunderstood yesterday. So that last one, I would think if you award half credit, then the course would be set up as semester 1 and semester 2 instead of the 2021 term. So there's a difference between terms in the years and term setup and the buckets that you set up for the grade portion of it. In the master schedule, the length of the course is the term. That's where that comes into play. So if it's a full year course, think of that part as this course runs from this date to this end date. Those are only loosely related to the actual grade setup, the permanently stored grade piece of it. So if your course runs all year, you only get that, you get to choose from that drop down in the master schedule, only one selection. So if you have a full year and you have a semester 1 and you have a semester 2, you can't just go in there and like check a box beside semester 1 and semester 2. You have to choose all year. So if your course runs all year, the term has to be all year. And then that dictates what grade buckets you need for that course based on when you're going to store grades.
Yeah, and that's hard to wrap your head around, is you've got one set of links that are dealing strictly with scheduling and calendar year, and the other set of links about grading. Like that, foreign concept. And Tim, yeah, it's going to affect a K-12 school that has different processes for elementary versus secondary built in with it. And that's where implementation specialists are going to have to really help. But then here's the other thing. I know that all the implementation specialists understand how traditionally PowerSchool sets this stuff up, but we've also got to keep in mind that we are trying to stay consistent in the state so we can get these grades to transfer correctly from district to district and be able to use common. Even though we're all going to get a version of a transcript and a version of a report card, we've got to know how other LEAs are coding things if it's going to be different from what everybody else is doing, so that we know to compensate for those codes once they get moved into our district so that they pull on the reports that we have. Like,
Yeah, this is a pretty critical thing that the state needs to communicate. If Y1 needs to be in there, then, you know, they need to put that out there so that those of us who are doing this setup,
yes,
and my coworker and I had this conversation this morning, the benefit that we do have, because years and terms is separate from grades, from a scheduling standpoint, as long as you're full year and your semester long, and if you do quarter long classes, as long as that's in there, your schedule isn't really affected. It's more the grades that are affected. But like you said earlier, I don't want to work through something that I think I can check off my list, and then, you know, a month from now I have to circle back to.
Or worse, we're in the middle of school and realize that's not right.
Right.
And it affect a lot more. Yeah, I will definitely bring that up, because that is something very early on in the pilot discussions that we came in and said that if we wanted this transfer stuff to work right in the state and us to be able to work as a group to have common reports, that everybody wouldn't have to recreate the wheel, that we had to use the same buckets, and we need those buckets to function in the same way. So if they don't, they've got to let us know. And they know full well that we have these two situations where everybody in the state offers some version of a year-long class. Some districts like you, Matthew, give credit at each of the halves, and then some like me, don't give credit until the end of the whole year. And so we've got to be able to compensate for both and still be able to use those common reports and common transfers.
Right. So in your situation, I was going to go back and watch your video, because Matt actually mentioned that yesterday, that you did a video and explained why you were using Y1. And I thought you actually were like us and did half credits, but if you do whole credits, your Y1 explanation and why that makes sense to you, yeah, that absolutely works for you. But in our case, where we're doing halves and only having that one bucket for a store code, that I think is going to be problematic. So we'll just, yeah, like you said, we'll have to get an answer on that.
Yeah, and then throw in quarter classes that get a half credit, you know, 4 times a year as well.
Explain that, Stacy. Give me an example of how you.
Well, just like government econ, and driver's ed. We only have a few of those, and it was always really frustrating in I now to have to, you know, make everybody put in a semester exam, even though only quarter classes use them. And there's probably a better way to do that, but that's just kind of how we started doing it.
So y'all are blocked, Stacy Rogers?
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, all right, that's where the quarter classes are coming in. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, and same thing with us. We have the quarter classes. It will be, Stacy, it will be easier in PowerSchool to do the quarter classes because of them being all contained within that quarter and just awarding that credit at the end of it. It won't present as much of a problem as the year long, because it will be a different class each quarter.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you'll see in my, like if I go school final grade, stay on in. Let me go to the high school. We're having a meeting next week at the high school about possibly redoing our year long, by the way. But if I look at next year, so you see I have Y1 4 different times in these quarters, because each of these are going to be a different class. So they will truly get a final grade that is separate in and of itself from each other. So these aren't the issue and these aren't the issue. But notice I haven't filled out my year long either, because we're contemplating taking the semesters out and it just being the 4 quarters, 2 exams to get a final, and not calculating the semesters that we had to inside of INAL just because of how INAL was set up. But yeah, if you're awarding credit twice inside of there, that is a question we need to answer. So we'll see if we can't get something in the 2 to 3 hour today. Matthew, are you going to be on that call?
I'll do my best. Yeah, I have another meeting before that, but I think it'll be over by the time that starts. So I'll try to jump in.
Okay, well, I'll definitely be on there and email it. I don't know how many people that's going to affect, but I'll just do another email blast to all ALET to anybody who needs that update on whatever we find out. Any other things that I need to put down on or questions? This is how we are going to get this to make sure that it works for all of us, is having these conversations and having this opportunity to have these conversations. So y'all feel free to chime in.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, this is going back some, but before I retired, we had put our courses in, well, we had pulled our courses in from the state and we put all the information in. So the ones that we're using are fine. But am I hearing that we have to go back and touch all of the state courses, even if we're not using them? Or not?
What's making you think that?
I'm not sure. That's the thing. You know, when I look at the listing, I see all of the state courses, but only the ones that we're using have our schools in them and, you know, have the setups right. That's all we have to touch. We don't have to touch the rest of them?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because the reason that they made that swap to push all of the courses in is that once we go live and we start transferring these kids back and forth across the district, Pat, let's say that y'all teach, I don't know, some random class, I don't know, but it's a class that we don't teach. If a kid comes in from you to me, it won't attach it to a course code if I haven't pulled it down into my courses list anywhere, whether it's active, inactive, doesn't matter. So they went ahead and pushed all of them to everybody so that as we transfer, those courses will be there to transfer with the kids, even if we didn't teach them. That way they come in the right way, receive the right credits and everything else with them.
Okay, and so when I look at those courses and I pull up the filter so that I'm only seeing certain ones, I see in there that I can check 3 boxes: active, inactive, or unassigned. I understand what unassigned is, but what is inactive? I see an active column, but I have no idea how to make a course inactive.
Yeah, you really can't without actually taking it out of through DDA altogether. And so you really don't need to worry about that. You're really looking at active and unavailable. The inactive is Alabama.
Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, wow, it's 11:30, y'all. I didn't mean to keep us 2.5 hours. I hope, I know the whole topic was going to be enrollment. I hope that helped. I hope that gives y'all enough that y'all can go have conversations in your district, maybe start some training, start some processes with it. Again, it's very specific to Alabama. So I know you can't go to that test server out there that's, you know, to practice with because of how they've got it set up differently for Alabama, but you can show that video. And I know there's a lot of ad-libbing in it, but hopefully that will help you to portray to your people what's going to need to be done in the upcoming year so we can get one process completely under our belt per se, hopefully. So I hope that helped. Y'all know if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm going to be working. We've got webinars all this week, y'all. We've got the office hours at 2 o'clock today. Tomorrow at 10 is a supplemental office hour on scheduling again, I think. So remember it. And we also, I think, have another office hour on Thursday. If y'all keep up with the smart sheet, let's see what we got. Oh. Yeah, we've got contacts today. We've got the power scheduler tomorrow. And then we've got, incident management. So they're going some more into how to do those disciplinary referrals. And maybe they'll have an update on some code sets for discipline. I do know the state is almost in the process of finalizing those code sets. So that's going to help us really lock down some things that we need to do as far as code books, policies, and things like that going forward. So thank you all for today. And please, everybody, stay safe tonight, tomorrow. I know the weather's supposed to be bad. Everybody check in on everybody come Wednesday, Thursday. I know it's supposed to be through the night, so I don't like bad weather. I'm one of those scary people. So I'll be thinking of all of y'all. Stay safe, take care of your districts. And if anything happens that anybody needs anything, please reach out and we'll do anything that we can to help. And if y'all have any other questions, I'll hang around for a little while. And if not, y'all enjoy the rest of your week and we'll do it again next week. Oh, y'all are very welcome.
Hey, Stacy, if you've got like 5 minutes, I want to ask you a question about something that may be just specific to our district.
Yeah, and let me go ahead right quick and stop the sharing, stop recording so it'll start rendering that.